My name is Alan Gibbons with Cast Service, and this demonstration is to show a direct expansion evaporator coil replacement on the Paragon DOAS. This repair will require the refrigeration system to be opened to the atmosphere. Thus, planning must be done to ensure weather conditions are appropriate to reduce the amount of moisture that can enter the system. EPA Section 608 certification is required when working on systems containing refrigerants. Verify that you have the correct replacement coil before starting work. On the HMI, we are going to put the unit into evacuation mode. This will open the EEV and the reheat valves. To do this, navigate to Service, enter the password 1234, test menu evacuation mode, and then press Start. Once the unit is in evacuation mode, you can turn the main disconnect off to the unit, as the valves will remain in their last position once powered down. Next, connect the high and low side hose from a gauge manifold to the system and then to the recovery machine. Connect the recovery machine to the recovery tank and then start the recovery process. This will be done while weighing the refrigerant being removed from the system. In some conditions, you may need to assist the recovery process by putting the tank in some ice water. Disconnect the wiring for the damper motor, outdoor air sensor, and the return air sensor, and then pull them away from the damper assembly. The damper wiring is located in the J-box attached to the filter rack vertical support. Remove the coil sensor probe that's located between the evaporator coil and the reheat coil and set this off to the side. Remove the condensate drain pan float switch. Disconnect the wiring harness from the electronic expansion valve. Remove all of the self-tapping screws around the perimeter of the damper and return access door. If this unit has a side return duct connection, the return ductwork will need to be disconnected and removed approximately 5 feet back so that the damper assembly can be removed. Next, remove all of the self-tapping screws securing the damper assembly. After all screws have been removed, use a utility knife to cut the silicone and break the seal around the damper assembly. The damper assembly can be removed at this point. Next, access the coil from the intake side of the unit to remove the screws securing the coil to the diffuser plate. After confirmation that all refrigerant has been removed from the system, connect the nitrogen tank and a regulator with a hose to the discharge port and remove a Schrader valve core from the suction line port. Open the nitrogen tank and set the regulator to purge dry nitrogen at 2 to 3 psi through the system. This procedure will displace the oxygen in the system to help prevent oxidation while brazing. Using an oxygen acetylene torch, heat up the coil outlet header connection to unsweat it from the suction line. If the unit has a reheat coil, unsweat both reheat coil connections at this time. Wrap the body of the electronic expansion valve with wet rags or another type of heat-absorbing substance. This will block heat conduction while brazing. Then unsweat the EEV valve connections. Now that all piping connections to both the evaporator coil and the reheat coil are removed, slide both coils out of the unit about halfway. This should allow you to gain access to remove the number 10 self-tapping screws that secure the reheat coil to the evaporator coil. Once these screws are removed, you can continue to slide the evaporator coil completely out of the unit, while leaving the reheat coil inside of the unit. The new replacement coil can now be installed in place by lifting the coil up into the unit and sliding it into the coil compartment. Slide the coil in approximately halfway so that the existing reheat coil can be reattached using the number 10 self-tapping screws that were previously removed. Silicone the flanges on the inlet side of the coil where it will mate up with the coil diffuser plate. Be sure to only silicone the top and the sides. Do not silicone the bottom flange. After the silicone is applied and both coils are mated back together, be sure the coil is positioned correctly on the coil support rails and slide it into place. Once the coil is in place, the bottom flange of the coil should be resting between the end flanges of the coil drip edge. Secure the coil to the coil diffuser plate using the number 10 self-tapping screws from the intake side of the unit. Screws must be in all four corners and evenly spaced along the top and the sides. Be sure to use the appropriate hardware to secure the coil. Using too long of a screw can puncture the refrigerant lines. Also be sure to only install the screws on the entering air side of the coil. Do not install any screws on the leaving air side of the coil, as it will make removing the coil extremely difficult if necessary in the future. Silicone the gap at each vertical seam on each side of the coil against the coil diffuser plate. Then silicone the angled flange of the drip pan. And be sure to reapply silicone in any other area where it was removed or the seal was broken. Prepare to reinstall the damper and intake assembly. Use a gasket scraper and remove any old gasketing and silicone. Install new 1/4 inch gray closed cell sponge gasket along the top and sides of the damper assembly. Place a 1/4 inch bead of silicone along the edge of the previously installed gasket. Next, lay the assembly on its side and silicone all of the bottom flanges. Lastly, set the intake assembly into place. Secure the intake assembly in place using 1/4 inch by 1.25 inch self-tapping screws. Utilize the pre-drilled holes along the left, right, and top sides of the intake assembly as a guide. Once the intake assembly is fully secured in place, run a bead of silicone around the perimeter of the intake assembly on all sides. Also be sure to run a bead of silicone along the seam of the damper fill panel at each end. Do not silicone the holes at the bottom of the damper assembly. They are for water to drain from the intake louvers on the assembly. Now that the coil is back in place, you can start reconnecting the copper piping connections to the new coil and the existing reheat coil. If any of the copper or fittings are being replaced with new material, be sure to use ACR nitrogenized copper for use in refrigeration applications. With the nitrogen tank and regulator still connected, you can set the regulator to purge dry nitrogen at 2 to 3 psi from the system and begin brazing the connections back together. Next, you will want to unsweat the factory-installed liquid-lined filter dryer and replace it with a new one. If there is a Schrader valve core in close proximity to the filter dryer, you will want to remove that first to prevent damage from overheating it. The filter dryer needs to be replaced anytime the refrigeration system is opened to the atmosphere to be worked on. Once all brazing is completed, you can install any previously removed Schrader valve cores and prepare to pressure test the system for leaks. Pressurize the system to 350 to 400 psi. Use soap bubbles or some other liquid leak solvent to check for leaks. If there are leaks found, release the nitrogen and repair as necessary. Allow nitrogen pressure to remain on the system for 15 to 30 minutes to make sure the pressure does not drop. After the leak check is completed, you can release the nitrogen and prepare the system for evacuation. At this time, you can also reattach all wiring connections and sensors that were previously removed. Install a valve core removal tool onto each service port at the compressor and connect the gauge set to these valves. By removing the valve cores, you will be eliminating a restriction point that can greatly reduce the evacuation time. Connect a micron gauge and evacuate the system until it reaches 500 microns and holds below 1000 microns after the pump is turned off for at least 10 minutes. Vacuum pump oil should be checked regularly during the evacuation process and should be changed after every use. After proper system evacuation is completed, you can prepare to recharge the unit with refrigerant. Connect the gauge manifold and hoses to the unit's liquid line Schrader access port near the filter dryer and the suction line Schrader access port on the compressor suction line. Connect the charging hose to the R410A refrigerant and invert the tank onto a calibrated scale. After purging hoses, open up the gauge manifold to charge liquid refrigerant into the liquid line. Monitor the scale to weigh in refrigerant as close to the factory charge as possible. Once the refrigerant bottle pressure equals the unit pressure and it stops flowing, continue to the next step to complete the charging procedure. On the HMI, verify that the unit is in an idle state. It should not be in cooling, heating, or blower modes. Occupied scheduling must also be turned off. To initiate a cooling test, navigate the HMI to the service menu and enter the password 1234. Test menu, test cooling heat pump, and then press start. Once the compressor is up to full speed, complete the charging process by slowly metering liquid refrigerant into the compressor suction line Schrader access port. Once within a couple pounds of the unit's factory charge, check the subcooling and superheat and adjust the charge accordingly. To determine subcooling, the compressor must be running at 100% and the condenser fan temperature must be 110 degrees Fahrenheit. The condenser fan speed can be adjusted in the cooling configuration menu to achieve the 110 degree condenser temperature. The subcooling should be approximately 14 to 16 degrees at 110 degree condenser temperature. Adjust the condensing fan's PWM signal by lowering or increasing the percentage until the discharge temperature is stabilized at 110 degrees. This can be accomplished by going to Service, Test Menu, Test Cooling Heat Pump, Cooling Config, and then Condenser Fan Speed. Navigate the HMI to Service, Temperatures, Discharge Connection Temperature, and note the discharge refrigerant temperature. Once the condensing temperature is stabilized at 110 degrees, read and record the liquid pressure at the liquid line pressure port fitting. Next, read and record the temperature of your digital thermometer on the liquid line. Reference the face of your high pressure gauge or use a pressure temperature chart and convert the measured liquid pressure to the corresponding condenser coil saturation temperature. Subtract the measured liquid line temperature from the saturation temperature. The result is your actual liquid subcooling, which should be between 14 and 16 degrees. Liquid subcooling is required so that you only have liquid refrigerant entering the expansion valve. Vapor bubbles present in the refrigerant will cause low refrigerant flow. This will result in a loss of capacity and efficiency. The next step would be to verify the compressor oil level. In order to view the oil level in the compressor, the unit should be placed in test mode and the compressor should be operated at full speed for at least 5 minutes. Shut the compressor down and let it sit idle for 5 minutes. You should be able to see oil filling approximately 50 to 75% of the compressor sight glass. If you cannot see oil in the system, or the oil level is low, proceed with adding additional oil to the compressor. The unit is now ready to be put back into operation. For further assistance, please contact CAS Service at 1-866-784-6900 or email support@casservice.com.